One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be free.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart, steel, and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels, ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only mortal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry. Metal and mayhem will never die. Rituals report he paves his way. More legend in the making, day by day.
Good morning, Vietnam. Hopefully everyone is enjoying themselves. I definitely know that we are here on a Monday morning. Guys, we got a lot to get through this morning. We have a fuck ton of shit that happened over the weekend. It seems like every time we have any type of weekend going on, of course, there's going to be lots of news. And we definitely have a lot of shit to catch up on, plus the stuff that's happening already live right now, essentially. So today, the way that I have this titled is Mangione hearing continues, as well as Zelenskyy in London and Trump cabinet meeting and more. Now, the Trump cabinet meeting is going to be happening on later on today. The Zelenskyy in London is also going to be happening on a little bit later on today. The Mangione fucking case, that guy, the CEO killer, basically, of Brian Thompson. I guess there's some new evidence that have come out, and I have no idea what that evidence is. We're going to find that out together. But before we get into all of that, let me go ahead and just give you guys the lineup for this morning, because it is pretty extensive. Okay, Epstein files, judge orders release of grand jury testimonies. So judge orders release of Epstein grand jury transcripts, which is a huge W. That needed to happen a long time ago. U.S. weapons form core Taliban security apparatus. Now, I'm not really sure. Let me go ahead and just read this. U.S. weapons form core of Taliban security apparatus, according to Fox. Hal Kempfer, retired Marine intelligence officer, joins to discuss in this. Okay, so not too much things in the description there for me to go ahead and give you guys there. But anyways, yesterday a big ordeal happened as well. Russia launches major missile barrage at Ukraine. Absolutely brutal. It was brutal. And it's always shit like that happens when people are not watching, most of the time. Now, I always keep an eye out for everything, right? Anyways, Taiwan, Japan voice concern over Chinese military. So that's a very interesting thing there. Regards to China and their military, we actually have some video footage to present to you guys on that. But nonetheless, North Carolina stabbing. There was another stabbing on a train. Charlotte train passenger attacked. And what's interesting? Let me go ahead and read this. The man charged in the second violent stabbing on a North Carolina light rail is in the U.S. illegally and was previously deported several times. Wow. North Carolina stabbing suspect in U.S. illegally, DHS says. And what Trump is reacting to it, saying, quote, another stabbing by an illegal migrant in Charlotte, North Carolina. What's going on with Charlotte or in Charlotte? Democrats are destroying it just like everything else, piece by piece. President Donald J. Trump. Luigi Mangione due in court as new evidence emerges. Now, this is just as of 2 hours ago. So we're definitely going to find this out together, what's going on with his case. And then an hour ago, Mamdani releases, quote, "Know your rights when dealing with ICE" video.
Bruh.
I can't wait for us to go ahead and review that. It's going to be miserable. D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith announces resignation. And then Israeli government briefing on the ceasefire deal. All right, so that is our lineup for this morning. But before we get all into it this morning, make sure you guys come in and hit that like button. It helps out the show immensely, and it's absolutely free to do so. And if you guys are brand new to the channel, make sure you guys hit that subscribe because it's also free. But let's get the money part over. Please consider becoming a member, starting only at $2.99 a month, making sure we're not breaking the bank out there with anybody. But check it out. This is what allows us to keep these lights on and be on these airwaves. So I very much appreciate every single one of you guys becoming members and staying members. Follow my Instagram right here at BallValveTV, where I post everything behind the scenes of not only my life, but as well as the show, Millennial Food Time, breaking news, all that great shit. It's a great way to get a hold of me one-on-one. We also have a Discord server for all of you legends. Make sure you guys go into the description box down below, or any mod will give it to you in the live chat. So we've got the majority of you guys in there, but it would be awesome to have 100% of the legends in there. Last but not least, all super chats, super stickers, gifted membership signups are, of course, all going to be presented live onto the show and shouted out. But if you guys would like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut that they take from your hard-earned cash, well, then we have these platforms right here that you guys can donate to. And, of course, I'll read out anything that comes my way, just like a super chat, man. So get engaged, get involved. And I've got my email up, so if anything comes through, we can read it right away. All right, and I want to give a special shout out and thank you to Sick Bastard and his coffee crew coming on over with the raid this morning. I very much appreciate that. All right, so great to see everyone in the chat, man. That's right, Josh Phillips. Know your rights living in Alabama, period. Yes, but that's, I would say that is know your rights, period, and a story, but they're, of course, going to, extrapolate this and basically tell you, no, you fucking can't arrest me in this sanctuary city over here in New York City. That's basically what's going to happen. We got Sterling Will in the building. We got Taylor as well. Good morning to you. We got like button. I think that is Crystal. Good to see you in the chat, by the way. We got Rabbit of Chaos. Good morning to you. We got Jimmy Mack as well as Steve Easy in the building. We got Mountain Woman as well. And yes, Lucy is chilling back there with us. Let's see. Thought there was a peace deal in Ukraine. So there kind of is a mock-up of things that are agreed upon. It went from like this 28-point plan to like this 19-point plan or 18 points or some bullshit. I can't remember. They're still working on it. Now, what had happened there is without Putin's involvement, there was a ceasefire proposal or peace deal proposal for Zelenskyy over there in Ukraine to go ahead and agree to. And they pretty much did agree to those things. Now they have to go to the Russian side and get everything agreed upon and boom, boom, boom. But I guess there is a few things that are in the way. They're negotiating over certain concessions that Ukraine's going to make. And so there's a lot of things up in the air. Is it actually there? No, I don't think so. It's going to be a minute still. We got Quick Shoe in the building as well as David. Good morning to you guys. Hopefully you're enjoying the morning. We got Mount High in the building. Shout out to my man. Thank you for hanging out with us. We got Doug as well in the building. Shout out to you. We got Seymour Cannabis in the building as well, man. We got Alfred Patterson, and we got Frank Samatero and KP Nordic. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. All right, let's get right into this. So, Epstein files, judge orders release of grand jury testimony. This is a big deal.
A federal judge has now granted the Department of Justice permission to release transcripts of a grand jury investigation into Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of underage girls in Florida. It's a case that ended without any federal charges ever being filed against the sex offender. U.S. District Judge Rodney Smith saying that a recently passed federal law ordering the release of records related to...
What's up, Sterling Will? I hope I said hi to you. We got Taylor as well as Bob. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. And yes, Steve Easy saying fuck 12. Absolutely. Agreed.
Epstein overrode the usual rules about grand jury secrecy. President Trump, you may remember, signed the law in November. Now, there is a lot to this here, so I do want to bring in Jeremy Paul, professor of law at Northeastern University, to help break it down. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. And first off, the big question that I do want to ask you, how significant of a move is this to release those transcripts?
How do I say your name? Is it Jack? How do I say that? I'm gonna buffer it or totally fuck it up, but that's what I get. So that's what I get for being illiterate. But good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat.
I would say that it's significant in the sense that it starts the ball rolling in what will be many, many more releases. But I would not expect.
Well, I hope that this is the entire ball rolling, not just, hey, this is getting somewhere. We'll eventually get everything out there to the public. No, just get it all out to the public, bro. At this point, just let it all ride.
This particular release
up,
of
Kel?
information, the one from Florida, to have a lot of new individual bits of information for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the Department of Justice.
Actually, you do not have that right. Just so you know, Steve Easy, you do not have that right here in Alabama.
Itself requested to be able to release this material, which suggests
What's up,
that they don't
Lappy?
think there's that much in there that will be damaging. And secondly, a lot of this material has already been made public as part of some of the civil suits brought by victims. But even though there won't be necessarily one big piece of blockbuster disclosure, it's kind of like a crossword puzzle. You know, you fill in another letter, and all of a sudden something that was unclear
Tiffany, good morning.
clear, and it could turn out to be somewhat like that.
Do we know when these transcripts will be released? Is there a timeline or anything of that nature, or is this just so fresh that we really don't know?
Well, there is a timeline. The Congress passed that statute that you referenced in your opening, the Epstein File Transparency Act, which gave the government a 30-day window, which I think ends on the 19th of December. So we should see something by then because the judge relied heavily on that statute.
How does the court kind of balance all of this when you're talking about transparency and protecting victims' privacy when deciding what to unseal and what to reveal? Because it's important to note that one of the objections we've heard from a lot of lawmakers and other folks is that you're going to have victims' information that could be in the files. So how do you kind of balance that?
Well, that is a great question. And in this case, we are in somewhat uncharted territory. Normally, it's the defense.
I mean, it should be fairly straightforward and simple. Judge orders the release of Epstein grand jury transcripts, period. I don't know why it needs to be more complicated than it is. We got Black Legionnaire in the building. Shout out to you, by the way. And by the way, we've got over 100 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys double tap that screen on the vertical side and hit the like button on the horizontal, man. I very much appreciate your laborious work. It is the #1 metric of all of YouTube.
Or some other group that's seeking release of grand jury transcripts. Here is the Department of Justice itself, which sought to release this. And so they're in charge in the first instance of deciding what to release and what not to release. We can hope.
Jack Key Lynn. Wow. Jack Lynn. No, that wouldn't be like that. Would it be? Jack Key Lynn. Wow.
That the judge will
hard for me.
Take a look at this before decisions are made.
Jackie's fine.
Exactly,
I like
as
that.
you say, a tough balance. Certainly no victims' names
What's up, Crystal?
should be released in this disclosure. But it's more than just names because sometimes you might disclose locations or particular facts, which would make it easier for, enterprising investigators outside the government to piece together things and figure out who the victims are. So careful attention must be paid. It is a balance. Hopefully we can count on the DOJ to be very careful.
We can't count on the DOJ to do fucking jack all, bro. Fucking brutal. All right. Anyways, we know that that's happening now. As more information on the Epstein files come through, obviously, we're going to go ahead and cover that. We do this Monday through Friday, and we follow these breaking stories. Nonetheless, we're going to move on, though. U.S. weapons form core Taliban security apparatus. Now, I'm not really sure exactly what the scope of this is, so we're going to find this out together. And here we go.
Hal joining me now. Good to see you, Hal. Hal
Kempfer is on top of this shit.
About a few different things ranging from the Taliban to Ukraine and Russia to Taiwan. We're going to start off with Afghanistan.
What's up, Beezer? Good morning.
You and I talked about within the past, I want to say you and I talked about this maybe 2 years ago. Fox News now giving us an update on some of the U.S. hardware that the Taliban has. Fox News saying that the final report from a government watchdog
What's up, Bree Rodriguez? Good to see you in the chat, by the way.
tasked with overseeing Afghanistan reconstruction efforts is declaring that the U.S. taxpayer-funded equipment, weapons, and facilities that were left behind during the chaotic 2021 withdrawal of the U.S. have now formed the core of what the Taliban's security apparatus is made up of.
Oh, shit. Real quick, I got to give a special shout out. We got a Cash App that came through. And by the way, thank you, Brother Lee, for coming in and hanging out with us. All right. We got Alfred Pedersen coming in with the $5 on Cash App saying, stop the cap.
Stop the cap.
I agree, bro. Thank you very much. Let me reset my cam, by the way. Shit. All right, we're back.
A 137-page document released this week from the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction says that Congress paid about $140 billion for Afghanistan reconstruction between 2002 and 2021. That all came as part of a mission promising to bring stability and democracy to the country. Ultimately, though, they say it delivered neither. So how? What do we know about what was left behind? And did the U.S. leave them with the best of the best military equipment? What do they have?
You know, Austin, they had first-line equipment. You know, for example, with rifles, they had M16s, M4s. They had our standard machine guns. You saw the MRAPs, which is that armored personnel carrier. So it's kind of high profile, but it's actually designed to deal with...
Man, I wish I had that soundbite. The yeah, boy. I wish I had that. But we got Lee Lance coming in the building with the 14 months as a member saying, hell yeah, boy, let's go. Solid work there, kind sir. Very much appreciate that.
With counter mines, so IEDs and mines, and that was a specific vehicle designed with that intent. We left them MH-60 helicopters. We left them Tucano. Yeah, they're kind of close-in fighters. They use them as trainers, but they can be used for in a low-intensity threat environment or no-intensity threat environment. They're good for air to ground. We left them first-line communications gear, radios, cryptography gear, so they could do encrypted communications. In other words, what we left them was a lot of hardware that actually made them a rather formidable force. And in fact, there was just a border skirmish today between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And one of the reasons that Afghanistan can kind of hold its own is because it has all that U.S. equipment.
Sterling, that shit is crazy. The Taliban sold a lot of our Afghanistan equipment to China. Isn't that shit fucking nuts?
So, what's the possibility that some of this gear is not operational, Hal? The watchdog says that...
Real quick, before he asks that question, we got Brother Pitbull over there in the UK. We always appreciate our man across the pond. Hopefully you're enjoying your afternoon. Great to see you, as always. We got Motobomb Virginia in the building as well. Make sure you guys go hang out with Motobomb and his coffee crew, man, in the mornings. He definitely has a phenomenal show.
Was unable to inspect any of the equipment themselves.
There's a lot of it that's not operational. You know, we pulled out in 2021, and having been involved with the maintenance side of things in the military over many years, it's always a big item for any.
Oh shit, Brother Lee Lance coming in with the $2 on Cash App saying, shit, we already do know. Dues paid, cuz. Very much appreciate that, kind sir. Let's go. Shit, making it rain over here. I appreciate you.
Unit, a variety of units. I can tell you that if you don't have constant maintenance on this stuff, it'll start to break down. I couldn't venture to guess what percentage of it is out of pocket, so to speak. But I do think that a lot of it, particularly the more advanced things like the aviation assets, they're probably not working as well. Some of the more advanced armor assets may also be non-functional. I'd imagine that things like small arms, machine guns, M4s, M16s, those are fully operational. Their challenge, though, is the ammo supply. You know, as they go through and they're doing things and they're using up that ammo.
This is actually kind of wild footage that Trey Yinkst posted on X.
we're not going to supply them any NATO standard weapon or NATO standard ammunition.
What's up, SNS?
To work with that. And of course, things like artillery and mortars, as those things break down, they're going to have a tough time finding replacement parts. They will inevitably have to cannibalize what they have to keep whatever else they have going. And over time, that will diminish. That's a problem a number of countries have had around the world. North Korea, most famously, had a lot of Soviet equipment at the end of the Cold War. And by
fuck, Cal, I didn't even think of that shit. That's hilarious.
the mid-90s, they were cannibalizing that equipment left and right in order to keep their stuff going. And there was a period in the late 90s where we kind of looked at them and said, I don't think they really pose a credible threat of invasion.
What's up, Mark, and good morning. Look at this landscape. This is a crazy image right here. Shit. What do you think they're saying in here?
Invasion of the South anymore, simply because their equipment readiness, the logistics readiness was so low. And that was because they just didn't have a pipeline for maintenance and upkeep and ammunition. Well, they had ammunition, but old ammunition. And
yo, real quick, we got Daniel coming in hot, by the way, over there on the Cash App side of shit, man. He sends in $7.77 saying, light that shit up. Absolutely. Shit. Thank you, kind sir. Very much appreciate you, Daniel, for that. That goes a long fucking way.
And it was a real problem. That's the same problem the Taliban are going to have as well.
So I think this is a good time to ask this question, and this is a question that a lot of Americans have. What could the U.S. have done to prevent this from happening? What was the level of challenge with getting U.S. equipment out of there before the Taliban took control?
Austin, that really is a great question, because what could we have done? I mean, there's some are saying, well, we could have taken all of our equipment back. And I would ask them to go in there and say, explain to me how exactly you were planning on doing that. If you tried to pull the equipment out, then literally the entire Afghan security apparatus would have collapsed right before you. And you would have had not just what we had in August of 2021, but something probably much worse if we had tried to do that. And of course, if you started
Mount High, okay. Well, that's why I didn't say the last name, because I obviously don't want to dox anybody. But Mount High, man, I very much appreciate that, bro.
That equipment out, then the Afghan national government, Afghan national forces, but the Afghan national government would immediately say, well, there's no plan for us to survive. And you would have had all of them flee. You would have all the units surrendering. It would have been just an unmitigated disaster on a scale even bigger than what we saw. So there really wasn't a great idea there. There was some things we did do.
What's up, Prez? By the way, good to see you in the chat.
There were reports that certain equipment, I think some aviation assets, we actually went out there and did some things to decommission them in such a way that if the Taliban ever...
What did we, like, pull the fucking brains of the fucking helicopters or some shit and the tanks?
Got hold of them, they couldn't use them.
Oh,
and
shit.
I don't know how widespread that was, but I do remember at the time there was discussion that a number of things that they left, they purposely sabotaged in such a way that the Taliban would never be able to put it back in operation again.
A live look at the White House, the time in the nation's capital just past 7 p.m. How on the global geopolitical landscape?
All right, that's enough regarding the Taliban. Let's go ahead and move on. We got enough information off of that. Okay, so over the weekend, Russia launches a major missile barrage at Ukraine. Now, a lot of these times that these things happen, it's usually during the weekend. I think it's because that there's less mainstream media coverage on the weekends than there is during Monday through Friday. I truly believe that they try to do shit to not get major press and shit like that. Maybe not. I don't know. It just so happens to be, it seems like all the time it's on the weekends. Anyways, so let's go ahead and figure out this together. Make sure you guys also hit the like button. We've got 206 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button and double tap that screen if you're on the vertical side. All right, here we go.
Welcome back in. You're watching live now. Let's talk about the Russia-Ukraine war. Russia unleashing a major missile and drone barrage on Ukraine overnight and into Saturday after U.S. and Ukrainian officials said that they will meet Saturday for a third day of talks aimed at ending the nearly 4-year-old war. The AP saying that Russia used 653 drones and
God damn, 653 drones?
51 missiles in.
How many missiles?
Russia used 653 drones and 51 missiles in.
Damn, 51 missiles, bro. That's a lot of firepower.
The wide-reaching attack. You're looking at Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner there in the video on your screen. President Zelenskyy sending this out on social media recently. He said,
we got J.R. Bowling, by the way, our Alabama's District 4 next senator. It's going to be awesome. Very much appreciate having you in the chat, kind sir.
I've just had a long and substantive phone call with Witkoff and Kushner, alongside Andriy Hintov and Rustem Umerov. And by the way, Zelenskyy says he's grateful for a very focused, constructive discussion. He says that they covered many aspects.
I appreciate that, Darren, by the way.
They went through key points that could ensure and end the bloodshed and eliminate the threat of a new Russian full-scale invasion, as well as the risk of Russia failing to honor its promises, as has happened, he says, repeatedly in the past. Zelenskyy continuing by saying Ukraine is determined to keep working in good faith with the American side to genuinely achieve peace. He says that they agreed on the next steps and formats for talks with the U.S. He thanks President Trump for such an intensive approach to negotiations. He says he's now awaiting Rustem Umerov and General Nadov with a detailed in-person report. Not everything can be discussed over the phone. Zelenskyy says we need to work closely with our teams on ideas and proposals. Retired Marine Intelligence Officer, National Security Analyst, and host of the Strat podcast, Hal Kempfer, still here with me. Hal.
Much love and honor and respect, kind sir. We'll see on the flip side, Brother Lee.
All of this happening in the context of a pretty major Russian attack overnight. What exactly was Russia aiming for overnight?
Well, Russia was basically trying to take out energy infrastructure. That's been their focus all along. They did a lot of energy infrastructure attacks. I'll tell you what was that wasn't mentioned in that was the a significant percentage of those drones were actually intercepted. One of the things the Ukrainians have been doing is building what they call interceptor drones. These are drones that fly out there and intercept Russian drones.
Yeah, and they're fairly cheap, by the way. These are not super, super ultra expensive drones that they're, of course, throwing up there to get exploded. But yeah.
And they've been very effective at using those. Obviously, that doesn't work so well for missiles. The missiles tend to get through. The drones are not completely intercepted, but largely intercepted by these interceptor drones. Although the other part of that is that Russia has now started using a lot of dummy or decoy drones in order to basically flood the airspace with a lot of drones. Some are actually drones that are going to bomb things, and some of them are decoys that are just meant to attract the interceptor drones. So that's the Russian counter tactic, if you will, for that. But they've actually been stopping a lot.
What's this, Putin in his war room or some shit?
Of them. But yeah, they've been hitting a lot of places that are simply not permissible in the law of war, like residential buildings and things like that. But they're really trying to do some damage. Now, some of the big things that everyone's concerned about is in all this fighting, there is now a hole in Chernobyl in the containment sphere that needs to be repaired, and it's leaking radiation. There's also damage to Zaporizhia, and they knocked out.
I mean, 53 missiles, they said, right? That's a lot of firepower. Not only that, but plus how many did they say drones? 600 or some bullshit?
Zaporizhia's, it has 6 nuclear power plants there. Knocked out Zaporizhia's power again 2 nights ago.
What's up, Jeremy?
And,
good morning.
They don't have power,
great to see you, man.
That means they don't have what they need to run the emergency cooling system to keep everything cooled down, even when they're not operational. So that's been a big concern, that Russia is kind of playing fast and loose with these things, and they could end up causing a pretty major radiation disaster.
We continue to track, and you and I almost on the weekly discuss this war. I got to ask you, though, one major attack like this happening on the sidelines of these peace negotiations, how do attacks like the one, and we're seeing some of the images, by the way, on screen. This was a massive drone and missile attack that Russia unleashed overnight. How do attacks like the one overnight, Hal, affect the peace negotiations that are happening as we speak?
It's a really interesting dynamic. They'll sit there and they'll literally be talking with the Russians.
Yo, we got Provo in the building. Shout out to my man dropping a 5-banger on the table, dude. Let's go. Thank you, kind sir, and making it rain in the chat, man. Very much appreciate you. Hopefully you're enjoying your Monday morning so far.
Whether it's a phone call between Putin and Trump, or whether it's Witkoff is meeting with Putin in Moscow, and then Putin's response is all very constructive, very positive, and then they launch these things with 600 plus drones and 50 plus missiles hitting in Kyiv and other parts of Ukraine, causing significant devastation, death, suffering. And it's been remarked upon. Melania Trump has actually talked about this, that they have great conversations with Putin, and then his response.
Brother Slim in the building. Shout out to my man.
I'm going to launch a massive assault on Ukraine, and so that's this is part of Russia's plan to keep pressure on Ukraine, to keep pressure on the U.S. I don't know if it's really having much effect. I think the Ukrainian.
No. Mount High, if you guys send anything through Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal, I get 100% of it. That's the difference. YouTube takes 30%. All right.
Kind of shake it off. Maybe it has more effect in Washington, D.C., and maybe with the White House, but the Ukrainians just kind of take it as that's the way the Russians do business. And the Ukrainians have been responding with some very effective deep strikes, taking a variety of critical infrastructure, but particularly taking gas and oil refinery production facilities offline. Pipeline facilities offline, and really hitting Russia in its revenue, and also actually causing gas shortages in Moscow, where they have to pay a lot for gas in the black market, and then they can't get gas readily, and kind of bring the war home to the Russian people.
So Ukrainian officials say that at least 8 people were wounded in these attacks. They say that 3 of those.
This is what I was waiting for. Is I wanted to hear how many people were killed, unfortunately, and injured. I want to know those numbers.
People that were wounded were in the Kyiv region. Let's talk about Kyiv, Hal. I remember when the 2022 invasion of Ukraine.
So hold on, before he goes and just skips over that.
8 people were wounded.
8 people were wounded in that. Wow, they used like over 50 fucking missiles, and I mean, what are they attacking? Infrastructure? Are they attacking like their grid, their power grids and shit, which they recently just did last week?
In these attacks. They say that 3 of those people that were wounded were in the Kyiv region. Let's talk about Kyiv, Hal. I remember when the 2022 invasion of Ukraine first started. There was concern back then that Kyiv would fall almost immediately. Here we are now, nearly 4 years later. How much damage has actually been done to Ukraine's largest city?
Well, it's tough to say exactly how much. I mean, there has been devastation around the city, but the city continues to function.
What's up, Rebecca, up there in Canada? Good morning.
Now, you may recall that the ministerial building where the ministers work, that was hit. And there is kind of almost an unwritten rule that you don't do that. You don't try to take out the other side's, unless of course you're taking over the city, which of course Russia tried to do without success. But you don't do that, because what you do is you invite a counterattack. For example, they could hit the Kremlin with missiles and take out parts of the Kremlin. And certainly Russia doesn't want to see that. So, but they've hit they've hit apartment buildings all around the city. They've hit energy facilities all around the city.
Real quick, just gotta give a nice little side note. I try to allow these guys to speak as much as possible here, without me interrupting. So do me a favor, just make sure you guys double tap the screen, as well as hit the like button. We've got over 200 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys hit that like, man. I appreciate that.
Yet the city continues to function, but like schools are held underground, and they have been for the last 3 years for the most part. They have classrooms set up off the subway stations. Everybody has underground shelters that they go to, and it's just the way of life in terms of how they deal with things there.
Yeah, no kidding, Steve.
So it hasn't. You don't see the devastation certainly in Ukraine or certainly in Kyiv that you would associate with some of the cities that have been battlefront cities in eastern, in southern and eastern Ukraine, and you don't see the sort of devastation obviously you see in the Gaza Strip in Kyiv. Kyiv's a functional
right. It's not going to be to like that decimation level. Yeah,
city. It has hotels that operate. It has restaurants that does stuff, but there are certain accommodations that have to be made for these massive strikes that Russia does. Even though these strikes are not just all focused on Kyiv, they're focused elsewhere in the country as well.
Right.
So French President Emmanuel Macron sending this out, saying Russia is locking itself into an escalatory path, and is not seeking peace. I firmly condemn the massive strikes that targeted Ukraine last night, particularly its energy and railway infrastructure.
I don't doubt that, Steve.
Let's continue to exert pressure on Russia to complete it to choose peace, to compel it to choose peace, excuse me. I will travel to London on Monday to meet with the Ukrainian president, the British prime minister, and the German chancellor in order to take stock of the situation and the ongoing negotiations within the framework of the U.S. mediation. Ukraine can count on our unwavering support. This is the very purpose of the efforts that we have undertaken within the coalition of the willing. We will continue these efforts with the Americans to provide Ukraine with security guarantees, without which no robust and lasting peace will be possible. For what is at stake in Ukraine is also the security of Europe as a whole, Macron says. So Hal, is there any reason, I ask you this question on the weekly, it feels like. It's an important one, though. Is there any reason for optimism now that we haven't seen in the past that this war will actually end anytime soon?
That's probably the best question you can ask. Good job, Austin.
Soon.
Well, I'm not holding my breath, but I will say something about the meeting you're seeing with Germany, France, obviously with Macron there, and with Starmer over in the UK, and with Zelenskyy. What you're seeing there is in part a response to negotiations, but also in part on December 4th, we released a new national security strategy document, and that document has been really turning heads in Europe. It makes it pretty clear that our going forward, we're going to be pulling away from European security, pulling away from NATO security overall. There's big fear, as Macron had said in that reported phone conversation that came out last week, that the U.S. was basically going to basically betray betray in some way, shape, or form Ukraine in this whole process. And so what you're seeing is those three countries, being the biggest countries in Europe, are really trying to step up in a much more concerted way to back Ukraine. And what they all realize is
it's not likely, basically, is the answer. He goes, I wouldn't hold my breath. All right. So another thing that happened over the weekend, Taiwan, Japan voiced concern over Chinese military. Let's go ahead and bring this up. We're going to go ahead and discuss it. But actually, before we do, first of all, we got to get the money part.
All right, just get the money part done.
Give me money. Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
Shit.
Denied.
Don't beat yourself up over past mistakes. You are going to fuck up again in the future, quite possibly in a most spectacular fashion. Why worry about yesterday's fuck-ups when you have tomorrow's fuck-ups to look forward to? You are a fuck-up, and fucking up is part of your growth process. Embrace the process.
Embrace the process. All right, let's get back to this.
You're watching live now. I'm Austin Westfall. Take a look. Reuters has this. Taiwan and Japan are voicing concern over Chinese military activities in the region. This is coming after Reuters reported that Beijing had deployed a large number of vessels across East Asian waters this week. It's its largest maritime show of force to date. Reuters also exclusively reporting on Thursday that China was deploying a large number of naval and Coast Guard ships across East Asian waters. At one point, they say, more than 100 of them, and they're citing sources and intelligence reports reviewed by Reuters. Hal Kemper, still here.
No, I haven't heard anything since we last discussed that whole thing regarding, any type of nuclear testing. Of course, if they're going to do it, they're going to try their damnedest not to, sit there and brag about it, because that shit could spark a whole fucking test war, essentially. And it can be an accelerant in the process, and sometimes less is more. You know what I mean? And also, Brother Slim coming in with the 14 fucking months. Thank you very much, kind sir. Let's go, man.
Here with me, he's a retired Marine intelligence officer, host of the Strat podcast. So, Hal, China views democratically governed Taiwan as its own territory.
Oh,
Taiwan
damn.
obviously rejects that.
He was still on the line for this. I bet you they did this back-to-back stories with Hal Kemper here.
Why might China be making the moves that they're making right now?
Well, they're looking across the South China Sea. They're also looking at the East China Sea. And you have over 100 vessels. Now, it has slightly decreased to, I think it was somewhere in the mid-90s or something now. But the peak was 100 vessels that were all maneuvering and doing a big training exercise. Historically speaking, when nations have done major attacks, all right, invasions and stuff, usually there's a, quote, training exercise, unquote, going on in the background, and they just keep going. If you look at Russia and Ukraine, That was a training exercise that they were doing in Belarus, that they moved all their forces into place. And then at the end of the exercise, they went south. But their operational security was so good that the Russian troops didn't know, and they sold the fuel in their vehicles. For gasoline, and the whole thing came to a screeching halt. But I mean, for vodka, I'm sorry, sold their fuel for vodka, and then the whole thing kind of broke down. What you're seeing here, though, is this massive array of maritime capability and other forces, air component, doing things like practicing blockading, around Taiwan, and also things around some of those disputed areas in the East China Sea with Japan. Is everyone concerned? And part of it is because Japan and Taiwan are rapidly building up their defensive forces, and China could say, now's the time to do it. If we wait a year or 2 years, if we wait till 2027 or wait till 2030, they will have enough air defense, anti-ship missiles, everything else in place.
You did, Rebecca. You did hear that right.
That we won't be nearly as successful. And even though China doesn't have everything it wants right now to launch a massive invasion, it's a back.
What's up, Roger? Shout out to my man. Hopefully you're enjoying your Monday morning. I definitely know that we are. Shit.
And forth, what do we have for offensive capability versus what do they have for defensive capability? And so the fear is that China might use this as a pretext to launch a massive military attack on Taiwan, or attack on Taiwan and other parts of the West Pacific area in the East China Sea and the South China Sea. So that's why everybody's watching it very closely, and they're all very nervous about it. And there's a lot of things going on. Taiwan has a huge $40 billion investment that they had approved, or it's kind of approved, that was going to go into building up a lot of defensive capabilities. And you have the Kuomintang Party, which has really become somewhat pro-PRC in more recent years, has been blocking full implementation of that. And I think China's thinking, well, why don't we do this? And maybe that will bolster those anti-independent, more independent.
Do you think this is going to accelerate the possible war between Taiwan and China right here? I mean, it sounds like this is definitely an escalation of some sort.
Taiwan political elements there maybe cow them into fear to avoid investing more into their own defensive capabilities. That may be some of the Chinese psychology that play here. Might be some of the same thing they're trying to do with Japan, saying, if you build up your military capabilities, we're going to keep doing things like this. That may be the PRC psychology. I don't think that's really going to work with Japan. I really can't predict how it's going to roll out within Taiwanese politics, but hopefully it won't work. In fact, if anything, usually when you do stuff like that, that bolsters those that say we need to have strong national defense. And so it may actually do the exact opposite of what China may be intending.
A live look at the White House, approaching 7:30 in the nation's capital. Hal, you...
Yeah, I totally hear you. And I'm totally, I just... Could you imagine the amount of chips that we would lose in America if that shit happened?
This late last month, we learned that Taiwan plans to add an extra $40 billion in defense spending to counter China. And that came after the U.S. recommended that Taiwan do such a thing. Let's say China does move forward with some sort of military action against Taiwan. How do we expect the U.S. might respond to that?
Well, the U.S. would have to move in very quickly. We would probably try to put as many naval assets and air assets in there. They've wargamed this many times, and I got to tell you, it is at enormous cost that we would prevail, all right? In these war games, we do prevail, but it is at enormous cost. Now, one of the things I would point out is one of our best carriers is currently tied up, so to speak. It's not tied up literally, but it's in the Caribbean dealing with the Venezuela situation. That's the Gerald R. Ford. That is a carrier, and it's been brought many times. That's probably a carrier we would love to have in the West Pacific right now to be a deterrent to China doing anything. So, it gets into the China Carrier Task Force math, but also where our forces of raid out there. But we would bring...
This is totally interesting, though. I see this as a little bit of an escalation here. I'm making sure that there isn't any... Well, there is some
on each ship, and that's...
some video here that I'll just allow it to replay real quick, and then we'll move into North Carolina stabbing Charlotte train passenger attack. There was another stabbing, man.
That's, of course, always a very perilous situation. So they're going to watch that. Then also going to watch air. And the fear is that China might do something so provocative it could... initiate an air defense action, which could result in fatalities. And China has done some really haphazard or hazardous stuff in the air. And
what's up, two-wheel Jesus?
And they have actually lost aviators because of that as well. So a lot of concerns that a mistake could be made, and this could trigger off some sort of larger military action.
Hal Kempfer being generous with his time, as he always...
All right. And yeah, I mean, he covered a lot that day. There was a lot that they were covering over the weekend. There was a lot of military movements happening. All right. North Carolina stabbing, Charlotte train passenger attacked. This came out 20 hours ago. The man charged in the second violent stabbing on a North Carolina light rail is in the U.S. illegally and was previously deported several times.
Bruh.
All right, let's go ahead and bring this up, and we will go ahead and discuss it. There we go.
Take you back into some of your top stories that we are tracking here at this hour. Take a look as the man charged in yet another violent stabbing on a North Carolina light rail is in the U.S. illegally and was previously deported several times. Online records at the Mecklenburg County Jail in Charlotte show Oscar Soranzo faces several charges, including attempted murder. No bond was set due to his immigration status, we're told. Now, the Department of Homeland Security telling Fox News Digital the suspect was
What up, Poncho? Good morning, my man. Hopefully you're also enjoying your Monday.
Moved from the U.S. in March of 2018 on a deportation order, and he re-entered illegally at the Texas border in March of 2021. He was reportedly booted again from the country and able to sneak back in as a getaway. Court documents allege he broke into a railroad car on the Charlotte light rail Friday evening, carrying a large fixed-blade knife with the intent to commit a felony. While intoxicated, the paperwork states
going to commit a felony, no shit. But there's a broad fucking array of fucking felonies. So murder.
Sorzano challenged the victim to a fight, cursing and shouting at other people, then attacked the victim, critically injuring him. Now, people who ride public transit in Charlotte spoke briefly with Queen City News about the second light rail stabbing attack in just a matter of months.
Yeah, that's fucking terrible. Fucking miserable.
My husband missed that train by, one stop and didn't get on there. And that's crazy. We should not have to feel like we are one stroke of bad luck away from being the next victim. I think City Council is listening and responding, but they need to be more aggressive about that response. I do not sit on the train. I am always standing on the train. I don't sit on my phone. I've always got my pepper spray with me. People need to be off their phones and paying attention to their surroundings. And you need to be an active bystander. If you see someone in trouble on the train, we need people to respond and step in because security's not always going to be there to help other people.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. If you guys see a fucking act of terrorism, an act of terror, absolutely handle that shit. Don't just sit there like, oh, I'm not going to get myself involved. No, you got to protect you and yours, man.
And this is surveillance video right here of that first attack.
Yeah, and then exactly. Do you guys remember this dude stabbing this chick? And then all these fucking people just sat there, watched it happen, and then watched her bleed out, and then she died.
We were talking about. It happened on Charlotte's light rail back in August. Irina Zarutska, a 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee, was fatally stabbed on a light rail while on her way home from work. 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown Jr. charged in that attack. Now, we are also getting reaction coming in from all over. We did hear from President Donald Trump posting on Truth Social saying, another stabbing by an illegal migrant in Charlotte, North Carolina. What's going on in Charlotte? Democrats are destroying it like everything else, piece by piece. And I do want to talk more about the situation unfolding there in North Carolina. Let's bring in Congressman Mark Harris, a Republican representing North Carolina's 8th Congressional District. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here on this Sunday.
Josh, thank you so much for having me. It's good to be with you.
Fucking dog shit audio, bro. You guys couldn't have figured that out? You know what? I'm totally uninterested now.
And first off, I did want to ask you...
I'll see if they ask anything of substance here. If not, we're moving on.
Your thoughts overall, as the information started to come out, and this was another serious attack there on the light rail in Charlotte. We're talking the second one here in a matter of months. What's going through your mind at that point?
Well, obviously, what's going through my mind when I first heard about it was not again. I mean, it was almost unbelievable to think that here we were just a few months removed from really the whole nation's attention was turned to Irina Zarutska, the young Ukrainian woman who was fleeing war-torn Ukraine, came to Charlotte and was leaving.
This is dog shit, bro.
Leaving her job when she was stabbed by someone that had been on the streets for, I think, after 14 previous arrests and even doing 5 years in prison. And yet he was back out on the streets and was able to do that. So then when we hear that this individual is an illegal alien who had been deported twice and yet made his way back in and fell under the category of a getaway and was here in Charlotte, then the other thought that came to my mind is, my goodness, it was less than a couple of weeks ago when everything in the news was about Operation Charlotte's Web, when the Border Patrol was here in Charlotte looking for individuals, making more than 400 arrests that had been made. And many of our elected leaders in Charlotte were really just coming out against the Border Patrol being here. And
I don't understand that whole bullshit, being against Border Patrol, being against ICE, I just don't get it. Anyways, we're going to move on. Luigi Mangione due in court as new evidence emerges. This is just as of 3 hours ago. So let's go ahead and bring this up. We'll go ahead and discuss this together.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox as we turn our attention now to some more domestic headlines, bringing it out to this live image that we have at the Empire State Building over in New York City.
Be safe,
New evidence in the Luigi Mangione state case released over the weekend just as he makes his return to court today as the evidence suppression hearing continues. It was postponed Friday because Mangione was sick. Good Day's Haley Fixler is outside of the courthouse with the latest. Haley, I know that there is a lot going on, so much interest in this case, so what more can you talk?
Actually, I don't know the answer to that, Slim. But I will look into that.
Tell us.
A lot going on, Corral. Good morning. And of course, the suppression hearing is happening because the defense is claiming that some of the evidence in the Mangione case here at the state level was obtained illegally. And so that is why, again, that we're having that suppression hearing. Meanwhile, on Saturday, the courts did release some new photos of evidence collected during the investigation. So let's take a look at some of that. There is a folding knife. You can see a photo here that officials say was in Mangione's pockets. There's also a Greyhound bus ticket in the name of Sam Dawson. Investigators say that
who the fuck is Sam Dawson?
That is one of Mangione's aliases. Now, we also got a glimpse of what appears...
It's one of his aliases. Oh, my God, this fucking guy.
Why are you gay?
...to be a handwritten to-do list with the word survival kit on the bottom corner. And that list also includes words like Best Buy, USB, and digital cam. And
I did see that part, but I don't know if there's, like, any more... that's going. I mean, I'm sure it's going down, but nothing in the press.
They're all crossed out. There's also a photo, some photos of these clothes that investigators say Mangione wore at the time that they believe he shot and killed United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson over a year ago in Midtown Manhattan. This is what a criminal defense attorney says about all of this.
Does this mean that this was his equipment used to make a killing? It doesn't seem like it, but perhaps there's a theory that the prosecution isn't sharing yet, which is likely, of why it's important. He was masked and
This guy, I got a question.
Why are you gay?
As well. Shit. Okay, back to this.
Disappeared. It took a few days to find him. If there is evidence, forensic evidence, that matches up to his DNA on these clothes, and again, if there's residue on the clothing which matches the type of...
Residue. Say it with me. Residue.
Firearm used to kill the United Healthcare executive, then yeah, it could be very important evidence.
So today, the defense is going to continue to argue their point that some pieces of evidence initially obtained after Mangione's arrest was done so unlawfully. They say that law enforcement officers did not have a warrant when they searched his backpack, so they believe that evidence should not be used in trial. Now,
wow, so that, I mean, it's going to be crazy if they don't allow that backpack to be fucking part of the evidence. I mean, it's crazy, but that's what happened. That is the fucking state's problem. They fucked up. Well, the feds or whatever, they fucked up. Well, actually, no. It wasn't the feds that fucked up. It was the cops that, when they were arresting, didn't read him his Miranda rights. Dude. Like, are you that fucking retarded? Is this your first day on the job? The fuck?
In that backpack, investigators found a 3D printed gun and a notebook that they say show he had motive and plans to carry out this assassination. Mangione's legal team is also claiming that he was not read his Miranda rights until about 20 minutes after police came up to him, so they want everything he said up until that point to be thrown out. Now, court is set to start again at 9:30 this morning, and again, it's important to remember this is just the state case. The federal judge will listen to arguments about whether or not this evidence can be used in the federal case in a hearing that begins on January 9th. Live in Lower Manhattan, Corral, back to you.
All right, Haley, thank you so much for that update. We'll keep an eye on anything that happens at that court hearing today. You take care.
And of course, we'll be following that as well, because that is the latest on Luigi, though. Okay, so Mamdani releases Know Your Rights When Dealing with ICE video.
Bruh.
All right, let's go ahead and get into this. We'll go ahead and talk about it a little bit. Let's figure out what the hell Mamdani's doing here. 2 hours ago, by the way.
We are going to continue, though, with some more of these headlines coming out of New York City as I bring us back out to the live image that we have at the Empire State Building. This time, I want to talk a little bit about New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani and some comments that he made over the weekend as he posted a video to social media Sunday explaining...
Oh, it's very quick. It's a very quick update.
...immigrants' rights to refuse to speak to or comply with agents from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This comes days after federal agents carried out a raid in Manhattan. Now, in the video, Mamdani vowed to protect the city's 3 million immigrants, saying, quote, "We can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights." It's a pretty short video. I'm going to play it next.
ICE attempted to raid Canal Street and detain our immigrants.
Hold on, let me go and slow this down so we can actually get this correctly here. Let me back this up. All right.
ICE attempted to raid Canal Street and detain our immigrant neighbors. As mayor, I'll protect the rights of every single New Yorker, and that includes the more than 3 million immigrants who call this city their home. But we can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights. Last weekend, ICE attempted to raid Canal Street and detain our immigrant neighbors.
So the video is just, it ends with "know your rights." What does that fucking mean?
As mayor, I'll protect the rights of every single New Yorker, and that includes the...
If you're illegal here, you don't got fucking rights.
More than 3 million immigrants who call this city.
Sorry.
But we can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights. If you encounter ICE, these are the things that every New Yorker should know. First,
oh, there we go. So it wasn't the end of it. They just replayed it for some weird reason. Maybe it glitched.
ICE cannot enter into private spaces like your home, school, or a private area of your workplace without a judicial warrant signed by a judge. That looks like this.
That's right, Bob. That's funny.
If ICE does not have a judicial warrant signed by a judge, you have the right to say, "I do not consent to entry," and the right to keep your door closed. Sometimes ICE will show you paperwork that looks like this and tell you that they have the right to arrest you. That is false. ICE is legally allowed to lie to you, but you have the right to remain silent. If you're being detained, you may always ask, "Am I free to go?" repeatedly until they answer you.
The one thing that really actually irks me, aside from his, is rhetoric, but aside from that, is the way that he bobbles his head every single time that he speaks. He's got to bobble his head over there.
You are legally allowed to film ICE.
Oh my God, that was hardcore. That was a hardcore head nod or bobble.
You may always ask, "Am I free to go?" repeatedly until they answer you. You are legally allowed to film ICE as long as you do not interfere with an arrest. It is important to remain calm during any interaction with ICE or law enforcement. Do not impede their investigation, resist arrest, or run. One last thing. New Yorkers have a constitutional right to protest, and when I'm mayor, we will protect that right. New York will always welcome immigrants.
No, I do not.
And I will fight each and every day to protect, support, and celebrate our immigrant brothers and sisters.
And that was the video posted to social media from New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. Again, his comments came a week after demonstrators gathered as ICE attempted to detain people on Canal Street near New York's Chinatown. A similar immigration sweep in the same neighborhood last October was also met with several protests. Also,
I'm sure of that.
So just a reminder that weeks earlier, Mamdani had a surprisingly cordial Oval Office meeting with President Trump.
We already know about that. We covered that. Okay, so DC Police Chief Pamela Smith announces resignation. So let's go ahead and bring this up and see what the hell is being discussed over here.
We have some breaking news to get
to. It's a fairly quick update, too.
On this Monday, as we've just heard that Washington, D.C.'s police chief has announced her resignation. I want to take you out to this, a social media post by the D.C. Police Department. It says, a statement from Chief Pamela A. Smith, quote, "I'm deeply grateful for my time serving the district. Leading MPD has been the greatest honor of my career. Thank you to Mayor Bowser, the council, our officers, and D.C. residents for your trust." I want to take us out to some footage that we do have of that former D.C. Police Chief Pamela Smith. So take a look at this as I also read some of the reporting courtesy of our partners at Fox 5 in D.C., in which they say this, again, that Metropolitan Police Department Chief Pamela Smith announcing today, so on Monday, that she is stepping down. In a statement posted to the department's website, Smith called her tenure, quote, "the greatest honor of her career." She thanked D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, the D.C. Council, and city residents for their support, noting both the challenges and progress made in reducing crime. She went on to say this, quote, "This role has been both challenging and rewarding. I am proud of the accomplishments we achieved together, and I thank the residents of this city for their trust."
Oh, yeah, Bob, if you're illegal, it doesn't matter what color you are, what nationality you are. It doesn't fucking matter. Everyone can get the smoke. We got Gunpowder Nitro in the building. Shout out to you, by the way. Always appreciate having you in the chat.
And partnership. Going on to say, while my aspiration has always been to see 0% crime, we are not there yet.
What's up, Marilyn? Good morning to you.
Nonetheless, we have made tremendous progress and there remains important work ahead. Smith said the department is well positioned to continue strengthening public safety and praised the resilience of Washington's community, saying, quote, "I'm profoundly grateful for the opportunity to serve in this capacity as chief of police. It has been an honor to lead the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department, and I will always carry with me the pride of having served this city." Fox 5 says this also, that Bowser spoke about the decision in a post on X Monday morning, saying, quote, "When Chief Smith stepped up to lead the Metropolitan Police Department, we had no time to waste."
Absolutely, Mountain Woman. We'll see you on the flip side. Hopefully, we'll see you tomorrow morning.
She came in at a very challenging time for our community when there was significant urgency to reverse the crime trends our city was facing post-pandemic. Within a year of her tenure, we opened the Real-Time Crime Center. We deployed newer and better technology, worked with the council to pass comprehensive legislation that prioritizes accountability. And Chief Smith got all of this done while also navigating unprecedented challenges and attacks on our city's autonomy. Again, that is part of a statement that Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser issued on X Monday morning. Bowser went on to say, quote, "Chief Smith dramatically drove down violent crime, drove down the homicide rate to its lowest levels in 8 years, and helped us restore a sense of safety and accountability in our neighborhoods."
Stop the cap.
Now, this is what we know so far also, that Smith was nominated by Bowser in July of 2023 and confirmed by the D.C. Council that November. She made history as the department's first Black woman to serve as chief. She joined MPD in May 2022 as its first chief equity officer after a 24-year career in law enforcement, including a tenure as chief of police for the United States Park Police in Washington. She was in command and in the nation's capital this summer when President Trump issued an emergency order that federalized the city's police force and deployed hundreds of National Guard troops in what his administration described as a crime-fighting mission. I also want to bring us to this, a live image that we have over at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. So back in August, the Trump administration briefly named the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration as Washington's emergency police commissioner, granting them the full powers of the police chief. That move was quickly reversed, leaving Smith in charge of the department. Mayor Bowser recently announced she will not seek re-election next year, so that's a reminder. And just a little update from
W. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this morning. I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough for allowing us to do this Monday through Friday, man. I'm very honored to be able to do this, and I think that you guys see that I truly enjoy doing this with you guys. So anyways, we'll be back tomorrow morning for more of the World's Madness. Make sure you guys stick around. We're going to be sending you guys off to my buddy Rob Knorr. Make sure you guys let him know we're coming through with the Mike Ball raid. I'd very much appreciate that. Or Insane Wheels raid, whatever you guys want to put it out there. So anyways, until tomorrow morning, we'll see you guys. Much love, honor, respect, and God bless everyone.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges, a host with a fire burning in his soul, with a heart steel and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, Insane Wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow, he takes his stand, refusing to submit.